Welcome to Man in America. I'm your host, Seth Holhouse. So, we're going on almost 10 days of having Trump in office, and we have seen massive changes across the country and around the world. And one of the big topics I've been following closely to try to understand how his presidency is going to change is the global economic situation, right? United States is sitting in 35 plus trillion dollars in debt. And Trump has talked openly now multiple times, even in addressing Congress, about getting rid of income tax, which I would be the first person to say, great idea, but replacing that income with tariffs. Now, for me, living in America, the idea of tariffs seems like a good idea. I know certain goods will become more expensive, but I'm very, very American first. And I like the idea of making the foreign corporations in foreign countries pay to play. But we're starting to see ripples on what these tariffs could actually do internationally. And we have seen a breaking story in the past couple of hours about how it's affecting the gold exchanges and the flow of precious metals into America, as people are concerned that if they don't get their precious metals into America before these tariffs hit, that they're going to see the price of these metals skyrocket because of that. And so joining us is my good friend, Collin Plume, to help us break down the story. So Collin, welcome to the show. It's great to have you. We just were on the last week, I think, and already some
Yeah.
big news is happening. So thanks for being here.
Yeah. Well, I think anytime you see a news report saying that the Bank of England is doesn't have, they're basically short on gold, and they've told investors that they have to wait 4 to 8 weeks to get their gold. It's something that it raises an eyebrow. I think, and I don't know if the tariff idea is really what's pushing this idea. I think it's part of the story potentially, but I don't know. I mean, have we discussed doing tariffs with the UK? I haven't seen any tariffs with the UK. Have you?
No, I haven't. But if you look at what happened with Colombia and how quickly, Trump just pulled out that massive tariff club and started swinging it at any country that was going up against what he wanted to have happen, maybe the folks in UK are thinking, well, we better get ahead of this. And let me go ahead and pull up
Yeah.
the article that we can just, I'll do a quick read through some of the highlights, and I really want to get your thoughts on this. So this is just today, Financial Times: gold stockpiling in New York leads to London shortage. It says, wait to withdraw bullion from Bank of England rises sharply as fears of Trump's tariffs drive shipments to the United States. And it says, a surge in gold shipments to the U.S. has led to a shortage of bullion in London as traders amassed an $82 billion stockpile in New York over fears of a Trump administration tariffs. It says the wait to withdraw bullion stored in the Bank of England's vaults has risen from a few days to between 4 and 8 weeks, according to people familiar with the process, and as the central banks struggle to keep up with demand. Here's a quote. It says, people can't get their hands on gold because so much has been shipped to New York and the rest is stuck in the queue, said one industry executive. Liquidity in the London market has been diminished. Now, it says that since November's U.S. election, gold traders and financial institutions have moved 393 metric tons into the vaults of the COMEX Commodity Exchange in New York, driving its inventory levels up nearly 75% to 926 tons, the highest level since August 2022. Now, it says that total gold flows into the U.S. could be far higher than the COMEX numbers reflect, according to market participants, because there are likely to have been additional shipments to private vaults in New York owned by HSBC and JP Morgan. Those two banks declined to comment. So, Collin, as the CEO of Noble Gold, you're obviously following these stories and you understand a lot about the precious metals market. So, what do you see happening here? And I think the important question that I'm wondering, as someone that is invested into precious metals, is how do you think this is going to play out in terms of the prices of gold and silver this year?
Yeah. So again, I still am confused in the idea that there's tariffs because it's never been discussed with UK. But the most interesting thing of that whole article to me is the idea of it being stuck in the queue. I don't understand. How is it stuck? When you buy these contracts of gold, the gold is supposed to be there. There's no queue. You're not waiting on the gold. That's the thing that we've talked about a lot over the years, is there gold backing up every contract? And what they're alluding to is that there's not. that they're waiting. They have to wait, which means they don't have the gold. They have to accumulate the gold from somewhere. How can that be? COMEX and these, they're supposed to do audits. There's in London, New York, there's audits. So why would there be any weight of gold? Right now, I could get gold to somebody in 5 days. I'm a lonely gold dealer here in the U.S. Right? I mean, I'm no Bank of England, but I can tell you this: we're shipping gold. It's getting there very quickly. The concerning thing is are these institutions actually holding enough gold? That's what that means to me. And why aren't these contracts backed up by the real metal? That's concerning to me.
And so one thing I also wonder as well is because I've done a lot of kind of digging into how they've been able to suppress the prices of precious metals. And one idea that I've come to over and over again through my research is that they're basically using these contracts to create an artificial supply that's much larger than the actual supply, right? So
Correct.
that I've heard sometimes it's even 100 to 1, right? So for every 1 ounce of silver, they've got 100 contracts out for 100 ounces,
Yeah.
which it seems like it's some sort of Ponzi scheme. And if the banks are the ones that are inflating and selling these contracts, then I feel like that what it's doing is it's messing with the natural laws of supply and demand. Because
Correct.
if a lot of investors around the world think, "Oh, well, I've got a silver certificate. See, I own 1,000 ounces of silver on paper." But if 100 other people also own that same 1,000 ounces on paper, it's the same thing as the banking industry. And what causes bank
Hmm.
collapses is that
Hmm.
everyone says, "Oh, my bank account says I have $100,000," but with
Right.
the amounts, the minimum requirements the banks have, you might be one of
Right.
1,000 people that all claim the same $100,000, right?
Yeah. The fractional reserve currency, the way that banks hold, maybe a tenth of what they have in savings. I think that's. I mean, this is in essence like a bank run. That's in essence what happened is that people said, I don't feel comfortable. I want it closer. I want to actually get the gold. And then there were so many people saying, I want to get the gold that they couldn't keep up. They didn't have enough gold. And so, this is when people always ask me, how do you buy gold? How do you do it? And that's why a lot of people just won't mess around with any kind of contracted gold or any kind of ETF because they're concerned about this exact situation. And I think it also shows that people are concerned about where the price could go, and they want to get their hands on gold because they're anticipating prices to go up. Tariffs are one part of the conversation. I mean, there's been conversations about how that would affect other precious metals, silver too. Silver imports into the U.S. So there's a lot of this talk about how these things would affect us, and February 1st is right around the corner. So I think people are wanting to put themselves in the best position to get any assets before there could be any kind of spike. And that's what I saw when I saw this report. I mean, this news report splashed all over the news, all over Great Britain, all over in New York. Starting to make its way around the country now. But I think as more people see this happening, they're going to realize, like, wow, this is a shortage. And I won't be surprised if we see other areas start to have a similar thing, because people, once they realize that there's not the gold that they purchased there, they're going to also question and go, you know what, I want to call that contract in. I want to get some of my gold too. Um, and a lot of people have been talking. I don't know if you know this, but there's this mystery Asian buyer that they've been talking about on the gold market. There's these very wealthy Asian families that have been just gobbling up tremendous amounts of gold over the last 90 days. They call it the mystery Asian buyer because it's not one person. It's usually a conglomerate of very wealthy people that are doing this. And they believe that's part of the reason that the prices continue to kind of push up. So it's, I think the gold market is telling us something with this shortage that people want to get it. There is some movement here. There's something happening behind the scenes that are making people cautious. And I think at the end of the day, everybody wants to have their gold. That's why you buy it. And now, I'm sure those people waiting on those 8 weeks are not going to be happy until they get the gold in their hands.
Especially if they believe that that gold that they owned was sitting in a vault with their name on it. And now
Sure.
they discover it's almost like sometimes, if you go to the bank these days and say for me, if I had to pay a contractor and I need to go get $5,000 cash to, pay a handful of contractors for some work on my house, and the bank
Right.
is asking, well, what's this money for? And what's your profession? And sometimes I'll joke. I'm like, I'm a mercenary. And I'm like, I'm just kidding. And they'll laugh with me. I have fun with it. But it's the same thing. It's like, well, hold on. Isn't this my money that's sitting in the account?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. Why?
you mentioned bank runs, and that's what comes to mind with this is because as we know about our banking system here in America, that it's almost a normalcy bias that keeps our banking system healthy. It's the belief that everyone
Mhm.
thinks, oh, well, my money's safe in the bank and it's insured by the FDIC. But when you look and you realize that the FDIC can only insure, 1% of the overall deposits that it's
Right,
supposed to be
right.
insuring. If
Yeah.
enough people see through that, they're going to lose trust. And so I'm thinking the same thing that you are is is this the beginning of the I wouldn't say necessarily collapse of a certain system, but the breaking of the illusion that they've been using to oversell precious metals to keep the prices down? I mean, what do you
Mhm.
think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a logical conclusion, and I think the thing that I didn't see is why isn't anyone questioning the practices of these depositories? Why isn't anyone saying where is the gold? Why isn't it being audited? Where's the oversight here? Because COMEX, this is the biggest exchange where everybody LBMA. This is where all the gold and silver. This is where central banks are going. This is where they're bartering from. I mean, there should be better oversight. This isn't a small amount of gold. What is it, $82 billion in gold? This is a tremendous amount of gold that they don't know where it is and they don't know when they're going to be able to get it shipped out. So I think that, if we were in a COVID time, people might say, oh, maybe they're waiting on delivery or maybe this and that. We can't say that today. There's nothing like that. There's no, world crisis like that that's happened today. So there's really no excuse for them not to have this gold. It'll be interesting to see what comes out of it and discovery. But it's just the first little inkling that there's a problem that they may not have all the gold they say they have, and I'd be interested to see if they're going to do more audits. And if it turns out they don't have all the gold, that it's not all reported, that they're waiting on it, and it's fractional, then you're right. Then the price is suppressed, and then the price should be much higher than where it is today, and that will be telling to see. But at the end of the day, I mean, in an inflationary environment like we're in right now, gold is going to do well, and that's why you're seeing kind of this pandemonium now, where they're just like they really want to get their hands on their gold. They want to feel safe. They want to know it's secure, and I can't blame them for that.
And so it's no none of us have a crystal ball, but if gold and we can say gold and silver because I'm kind of personally I've got both gold and silver. Actually, I'm more heavily into
Yeah,
silver than gold because of the ratios, and I think that the ratios alone tell me silver should be much higher, right? Actually,
right,
like, it's supposed to be
right.
what closer to a 20-to-1 ratio, whereas right now it's what 90-to-1
It's
or
nine
80-to-1.
91 to 1. Yeah, right now. Yeah, yeah. The 100-year average is 50 to 1, which actually I go over in my book, Silver is the New Oil. I talk about all these things, but yeah, I mean, even if it went back to it was 30 to 1 in 2011. So that would be where gold is today, where silver is today. Silver would go to, 120, $130. So that'd be a pretty massive gain from where it is today. So yeah, I agree with you. I like silver. I think the price has been suppressed in silver also. But we'll see. Maybe there's going to be some runs on silver too, because Comex, they also hold silver. Um, I know they hold, 1,000 ounce silver bars. And so we'll see if people are going to start wanting to have those and know where they are and have some physical delivery of that too. They just talked about the gold, but that could just kind of be the start of this here. So it is, there's a lot of movement here, but ultimately I think the idea is people wanted to protect themselves from a potential tariff. And by doing so, realized the gold that they thought they bought it may not be there, and it created more of a hysteria. And we'll see what happens over the next few days if they're able to make it better. I mean, after they said 4 to 8 weeks, there was no comment after that. That was it. There was nothing else. They didn't want to make any other comments, which if I'm an investor there, that doesn't make me feel good that they don't want to comment even farther than that. I mean, any logical person would say like, I should get more than a no comment when you supposedly have my metals that is supposed to be delivered in 3 days, and now you're telling me 4 to 8 weeks. So there's more to this story.
There is. So, I mentioned the crystal ball. I know you don't have a crystal ball, but you have obviously studied this extensively, and you go over a lot of it in your book.
Yeah.
If there was more of a run on these metals, and if the illusion and the price controls that they've been using through overselling, and overinflating the supply through the paper contracts, if that fell apart and everyone actually just demanded to have the metals that they had on paper, what do you
Yeah.
think, what could the price of these metals go to? Because I know last year some
Well,
of the bigger banks were saying gold could be 3 to 5,000 an ounce potentially.
yeah.
What do
Yeah.
you see as a potential for this?
Yeah. Well, I think with silver, if I just look at what happened during COVID, because that is sort of what happened during COVID, is that people couldn't get silver, right? Because most of the silver in the world is mined in Mexico, and their mines shut down for many, many months. And once people realized they couldn't get it and it was unavailable, the price went from 12, $13 and went in 6 months. It went from 12, 13 all the way up to $30 an ounce. It was a massive run because people, the idea that they couldn't get it, it just creates this, coupled with the fact the government was just printing money. I mean, it was just the kind of the perfect storm for metals. So I think at minimum, you'd see that kind of hysteria where it would double. But if it's really true that they don't have all the silver and that these contracts have been in place and they've just been, manipulating the market and they haven't been telling us that, and who knows I mean, the sky's the limit on both gold and silver. If those things were to happen, I mean, it would basically say that every person that's bought it at the current price bought uh, uh, bought gold that they thought was relatively rare, but it actually was even more rare. It'd be like, buying like a regular Porsche and then finding out that it's actually one in 1,000, right? Or one in, maybe it's the only one that they've ever made. You'd be sitting on an antique, right? Sitting on something that's much more valuable. So I think if you had that value underneath you and knowing that there's a lot less gold in the world available, there's a lot less silver in the world that's available, the price would just it would be quite unbelievable. And we'd go back to how we were working during COVID. We were working 7 days a week during COVID. We'd be going back to that scenario, which we'd be happy to do.
It also makes me wonder because looking at what just happened with DeepSeek and look at the big tech stocks, but also looking at how much money was pulled out of the crypto market. I'm
Mm-hmm.
wondering if there's a lot of people that not just crypto, but even that were just investing in like the Magnificent Seven and the big tech stocks. If that, with that shakeup that happened, and it's also interesting that you mentioned that there's these big Asian buyers, which, I look at what happened with DeepSeek and in that they just released a new Alibaba AI. I think it's called Quinn, I think it is, which makes me think, is this economic warfare by China to collapse some of these tech stocks, which really represents the massive bubble of our stock market? And I'm wondering if these families know what's coming, and so these
Mm-hmm.
wealthy Asian families that are probably tied into the CCP or some of the larger leading organizations of the BRICS, et cetera, if they know something is coming, so they're, while everyone else is, have been rushing to buy, crypto and the stock
Yeah.
market, they see what's coming and they're quietly moving all of their assets into precious metals.
Yeah. It definitely, it's a big, I believe in that too. And I think that, listen, if you look at, it's always hard to know what markets are going to do, but I think DeepSeek and what happened on Monday and the fact that the we're riding so much on this AI tech that so much of the stock market is built on that, and that they could build it for a fraction of the price. They've been telling, Chat GBT and Nvidia said you need billions and billions of dollars in chips, and you need these computers, and you need all this, and it's going to cost $6 billion. And this company does it for $6 million, right? I mean, that's going to continue to send some shockwaves through the market. And the majority of the wealth, as you said, 35% of the wealth there is those Magnificent Seven companies, and really their big push is AI in one form or another. That's the real potential growth story that they're telling us, that will continue to push things even higher. But if the cost that we're paying in the US is too high, and they can do it for a fraction of the price, and the competition is going to come from all over the world, then what are those Magnificent Seven really, what are they really going to do? And how are they going to compete at some of the prices that these other countries can build these products at, and that's going to be a telling story here. And listen, it's so heavily weighted in the seven companies, and the volatility index is very high. It's concerning. And then Powell, obviously, like, being cautious in terms of the Fed and saying he's not going to lower rates. So there's some things happening. This, I think, was the most interesting week in news in terms of economics that we've had in a long time. I mean, so many different variables came to the forefront. And I think the thing that, reminds me is that at the end of the day, you're buying different assets to protect yourself. You're buying uncorrelated assets. And so the gold and silver is the safety play, right? And that if things do go a little haywire and things aren't as strong as they are, is that you have something that you own that has no debt behind it, that you own, and that has performed well for thousands of years. And that's really the thing that I always think about, is that you're never going to pick it always perfect. You got to move and shift as you see opportunities. And I think that we're in an opportunity cycle. I think I 100% agree with you. Silver is the opportunity right now. I love where the price is. So I'm really, really hedging my bet and buying a lot there. I'm excited about it. So, but yeah, from DeepSeek to this gold, shocking gold story, there's definitely some movement behind the scenes where people are getting out of some of the traditional stuff, and they're hedging their bet basically, and they're going to flow to safety.
And that's really my perspective too, is that, I look at precious metals not as a get rich quick. Of course, look, I would love if silver hit 75 bucks an ounce. I'd be like, "Oh, okay, great. I'll pay off my car and I'll do something else." And it'd be amazing, but that's not why I've put,
Yeah.
basically any extra money I have then towards investments goes into precious metals, because for me, it's the same reason why I've got a huge storage of food, of storable food, and why I own land, because I think that we're entering into a time period of massive instability, and the only thing that I feel safe with, even safer than having cash in my hand, is precious metals. And to me, it's an insurance policy that if things go sideways, I'm not going to wake up one day and see that my stock portfolio has gone from, $500,000 to $50,000 overnight. And I know that, like,
Right.
that's to me what precious metals represent, is it's security. It's an insurance
Yeah.
policy. It's something that, hey, you know what? I can pass this on to my children one day, and it's going to
Yeah.
set them up, and it's going to give them security.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned and you started talking about your family, and I think fundamentally the thing that always draws people to precious metals and these types of safety investments is family. I mean, that's really why we do all of these things, is you do want to put your family in the best possible position. And when we talk to people about precious metals and why they're doing it, a lot of it is not even for them. It's for their kids, it's for their spouse. And so I think that's the layer too, is that when you take the ego out of it and investing in business and all this, and you really just fundamentally realize that you're doing this to provide the best life for your family, then it makes things it makes a lot of the decisions much, much easier. Um, and that's what people have told me for this, 16 years I've been doing this, is like, I made this decision for my family. And I think that's the best way to make any of these decisions. Listen, there's speculative stuff, there's speculative investments, and you're going to take a flyer on something and you're going to win some, you're going to lose some, but it's at some point you got to make some kind of safety smart decisions for your family. And I think that's why a lot of people right now are starting to see what's happening and realize, hey, this could be a good time to just take some chips off the table, get into something safe, and just prepare myself for anything that can happen.
And Colin, I couldn't agree more. And I'm practicing what I'm preaching. This is my exact philosophy. So if folks want to reach out to your company, Noble Gold, which you've got my full trust. I've done a lot of business with you. I know you on a very personal level. We've got a website set up. So goldwithseth.com. It brings them here. You've got this the gold and silver investment guide. They can enter in their contact information here. And also your phone number we've got is 626-654-1906. So Colin, walk us through, if someone calls this phone number or if they fill out that form, say they've got an IRA or say they've just got a cash account, they want to move into precious metals. Is it complicated? What's that process look like?
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, the first thing is we get to know you. The person that you're on the phone with, they're going to be your person. And we work as teams, but we typically be one person as you build a relationship. So the idea is you get to know them, they get to know you, they learn about you and your family and kind of what you're thinking. What's the idea? Are we doing an IRA? Are we doing cash? And they're going to walk you through that whole process. But no, we've done, thousands and thousands of transactions. We've shipped over $1.2 billion in gold and silver. We've done over $2 billion in precious metal sales. We make it very easy, whether it's an IRA, the paperwork's easy. We do all the paperwork for you, or if it's just, a cash direct investment, we do that. We ship it to you, or if you want, we can store it. Yeah, we handhold. It's a very white glove experience, and we've done it in a very specific way. So we focus on less investors, but we build relationships with those investors, and they get great service, and that's what they're going to feel. And everybody that you're going to talk to owns precious metals, knows precious metals, loves precious metals. This is what they do all day. So you're not, you're focused on somebody that really understands this, and they're going to go through all the details, explain the products, spend a lot of time with you, and then, ultimately let you make a decision if it's right for you and your family.
Oh, sounds perfect. So I'll bring up the website one more time, goldwithseth.com. Phone number 626-654-1906. That information will also be in the description for today's show. And honestly, my advice to, the viewer, also to my family, whoever it is that, right, it's almost like right now you have the opportunity to buy toilet paper before there's the lines at Costco for toilet paper. And that's what I did. I went out and I had a whole kind of stock room of toilet paper and stuff like that before
Mm.
everything hit with COVID, because I saw the writing on the wall. And
Yep.
even now I look back at some of the stuff that I bought, let's say in 2020, 2021, that, whether it's, food supplies or whatever it is, I paid a third of the price of what it is now because I saw what was
Yep.
coming. And that's how I look at precious metals right now. I think that right now is the opportune time. And what you say with silver is the new oil. I agree. It's like, yeah, it's like oil being at $10 a barrel right now. It's like, hey,
Mhm.
folks, the oil's $10 a barrel. It could go to $100 a barrel. So
Yep.
anyway, well, Colin, thank you for coming on. Do you have any closing thoughts as we round this discussion out?
No, I'm glad we were able to get on. I think it's so much happening in the news. Can't wait to talk again. And yeah, if anyone's just looking to learn and get educated, call us. I think you're going to like the people you talk to. Check out our reviews. Check out our, AAA rating on the Better Business Bureau, and spend time. We really pride ourselves on customer service. So, but otherwise than that, thanks so much, and I'll see you on the next one.
All right, man. Thank you so